Welcome to Recaps channel. Today we will watch an American superhero movie of 2022, based on Marvel Comics character named Morbius. The movie starts in Costa Rica, where a team of scientists arrives at the entrance of a cave. The expedition leader, Dr. Michael Morbius, orders the team to set a trap at the entrance. He then steps forward and cuts his palm to lure the creatures outside the cave. After that, a horde of bats begins to come out, and the crew retreats to the helicopter, but Morbius remains motionless, as if he was still waiting for something. 25 years earlier, in Greece, we see the young Michael Morbius, where Dr. Emil Nicholas introduces him to Lucian. They both suffer from a blood disease, and the doctor is in charge of caring for them. Morbius immediately calls him Milo, because of the last child who was there. After a while, Milo's machine suddenly malfunctions and he faints. Morbius uses a spring from his pen to repair the machine, and thanks to this, Milo wakes up. The doctor is impressed by Morbius' intelligence and plans to transfer him to an exclusive school in New York. After Morbius leaves, Milo is harassed by a group of bullies, who beats him until Dr. Nicholas comes to save him. Morbius managed to obtain his doctorate at the age of 19, and he is well known to have developed artificial blood for blood disease. Thanks to this, he received a Nobel Prize in Sweden, a prize that he refused. He returns to work, where he treats Anna, who suffers from the same disease as him. At the hospital, Morbius works with his girlfriend, Dr. Martine Bancroft, who thinks that Morbius is doing a little too much. She also mentions Milo, who is the benefactor of their project to mix human DNA with DNA of bats. It turns out that he caught the bats from the cave earlier, to learn more about them, because he thinks that bats could be the cure for the disease. Martine disputes her idea, so Morbius immediately tests the serum on a laboratory rat, to prove her theory, but he dies. Then Anna has a seizure and they rush into her room and manage to cause a coma before her heart stops. Soon after, Martine returns to the lab and discovers that the rat is alive. That's mean that the serum works. Morbius meets with Milo and Nicholas, to inform them of the progress. The two of them went to the park. Morbius asks Milo for more money, so that he can continue the experiments on international waters, since it is not legal. He warns Milo that they don't have much time left, and that he must act quickly before it's too late for both. The ship embarks on international waters, and Martine is there to help Morbius. After making sure that the serum is safe, Morbius decides to do a test it on himself. Martine injects the serum into Morbius and then attaches it firmly. Suddenly, a crew member enters the lab and notices that Morbius is free. They enter the isolation room and find Morbius hanging on the ceiling. The man tries to shoot him, but Morbius reacts faster and attacks him. A group of mercenaries arrives at the laboratory and one of them pushes Martine, who loses consciousness. Morbius, who has turned into a vampiric monster, breaks the glass and attacks all the mercenaries. He escapes from the lab and chases the remaining survivors. After eliminating everyone on the ship, Morbius wakes up and regains his human form. He discovers that his body has transformed physically. He goes to the control room and viewed at the surveillance cameras, he sees himself attacking the men and emptying their blood. Morbius makes a hopelessness call, takes some serums with him and jumps into the sea. The next day, FBI agents Simon and Rodriguez arrive on the ship to investigate the crime scene. They find that Martine is still alive, but unfortunately Morbius has erased all surveillance footage. Meanwhile, Nicholas and Milo learn about the incident on the news. Morbius returns to the hospital and directly heads to his laboratory, where he consumes artificial blood samples, to quench his thirst. From a man who could barely walk, Morbius now possesses incredible speed and phenomenal strength. He enters the reservoir and the bats consider him their leader. He discovers later that the artificial blood can't keep him stable for very long time. Just before Morbius returns to his monstrous state, Milo appears and helps him stabilize by giving him an artificial blood. Milo learns that Morbius is totally cured now, and he also wants to inject himself with the serum, but Morbius refuses that because it is still uncontrollable. Milo insists and he is forced to kick him out of the lab. FBI agents approach Martine and questions her about the horrific incident, but she refuses to answer them. That evening, a nurse is attacked by a vampiric creature. Morbius later learns that a nurse has been killed, knowing that he was not the aggressor. Just before he leaves, the agents question him about the crazy experience on the ship. They try to arrest him, but Morbius fights back and attacks them. Then he tries to escape by climbing to the top of the hospital with his power, but he is arrested and taken to a detention center. Simon and Rodriguez interrogate him and accuse him of killing the nurse. Morbius slowly becomes unstable, and kindly asks the agent to bring him artificial blood, but they leave without giving him what he asked. Shortly after receiving Milo's visit, he gives him an artificial blood bag before leaving, but he forgets to take his cane with him, and Morbius realizes that Milo has also taken the serum, which means that he is the one who killed the innocent nurse. Morbius then transforms into a super vampire again and escapes from the establishment, trying to pursue his best friend. Meanwhile, Milo also becomes a monster and kills a man. Morbius confronts Milo and warns him that this power is dangerous. Milo disagrees and attacks his best friend. They end up in a subway station where several officers arrive to arrest Milo, but he kills them all effortlessly. Milo insists that he wants to fight. Morbius chooses to escape through the tunnel. The officers arrive at the scene of the crime, and thought that Morbius is the one who murdered all the officers. On the other hand, Martine is finally out of the hospital. In the morning, Morbius approaches Martine on a bus where he explains her his and Mio's condition. He also asks for her help because artificial blood loses its effectiveness to hold the monster in him. After following two thugs to their lab, where he politely asks them to let him use their lab. One of them tries to stab him, but he is simply not up to that level and the others run away. He begins to develop a serum that will serve to prevent him from transforming. However, Milo goes to a nightclub where he flirts with a beautiful woman, but a man at the bar is not happy with this. Fortunately, he manages to control his power. Later in that evening, he follows the man and his friends, and then slaughters them all. The agents and several officers break into Martine's house, but find no one there. Martine works with Morbius in her new lab where they end up kissing, while Milo watches them from afar. The next day, FBI agents find 3 dead people, and through the surveillance camera they figure out that Milo is the real culprit all this time, and not Morbius. After hearing the news from the news, Dr. Nicholas talks to Milo, who scares him because of his obsession with his new powers, and they argue. Then, after Milo expressed his disappointment because Nicholas has always chosen Morbius as his favorite child over him, he attacks him and seriously injures him. Morbius has finally finished developing an antibody that is harmful to his body. He plans to inject the poison into his and Milo's body. Moments later, he receives a call from Nicholas and rushes to his location. Unfortunately, it is too late because he dies when he arrives. Milo sneaks into their lab and kidnaps Martine. Using his superpower, Morbius manages to locate her and joins her immediately, but she is seriously injured by Milo. Short of time, Martine allows him to suck his blood to go after Milo, but a small drop of Morbius blood falls into Milo's mouth, immediately loses his strength and eventually dies. Just as the police arrive, Morbius, covered by a horde of bats, flies away, while Martine is resurrected as a vampire. During the post-credit scene, a multiverse breakup of the Spider-Man movie opens, and Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture, who has somehow freed himself from his cell, meets Morbius, and tells him that guys like them should team up to do something good. Morbius replies that he finds the offer interesting. This is the end of our story. See you in the next video.